Beloved, before you close your eyes tonight, before your mind drifts into the quiet rhythm of sleep, I want you to understand something. Your night is not empty space. It is holy ground. It is the landscape where battles are won, where peace is planted, and where God Himself begins to rearrange the very things you've been praying for. The power of positioning your spirit before sleep is something most people overlook. Yet it is one of the most transformative moments of the entire day. Nighttime is not simply the end of your schedule, it is the divine reset, the spiritual doorway between what was and what can be. When the world quiets down and the noise around you fades, your spirit becomes more sensitive, more open, more impressionable. This is why what you allow into your mind before sleep either strengthens you or weakens you. It either empowers your next day or sabotages it before it even begins. Before you sleep, your spirit is like soil freshly turned soft, receptive, and ready to receive whatever seeds you plant. And the truth is, you are always planting something, whether intentionally or not. If you lay down with fear, fear settles into you. If you fall asleep replaying failures, those failures follow you into the next day. If you drift off thinking about chaos, anger, or disappointment, those emotions become the lens through which you wake up and interpret the world. But when you intentionally position your spirit with faith, with expectancy, with gratitude, and with a declaration of God's promises, you don't just end your day, you set the trajectory for the next one. Your nighttime thoughts are not passive, they are prophetic. They shape the atmosphere of your dreams, they influence the rhythm of your rest, and they create spiritual agreements that either open doors for God to work or leave space for fear and doubt to creep in. This is why, before you sleep, you must take authority over your inner world. You must silence the voices that don't belong, dismantle the worries that try to follow you, and speak peace into the atmosphere around you. Many breakthroughs are missed not because people don't pray, but because they don't prepare their spirit. They enter sleep carrying the weight of the day, unaware that they are entering one of the most spiritually strategic arenas of their lives. When you lay your head down, you are not just closing your eyes, you are entering a realm where God heals, reveals, restores, and strengthens. But He meets you at the level of your expectation. When you position your spirit before sleep, you tell heaven, I am ready. Speak to me. Cover me. Work through me. You align your mind, your emotions, and your spirit with divine intention. You become grounded, centered, and spiritually alert even as your body rests. This is the moment where anxiety loses its grip, where clarity begins to form, and where the peace of God takes up residence in the deepest parts of who you are. Positioning your spirit before sleep is not a ritual, it's a spiritual strategy. It's knowing that how you end your day determines how you begin the next. It's choosing peace over panic, faith over fear, surrender over struggle. And when you make this a practice, your nights stop being chaotic and start becoming consecrated. You don't just sleep, you enter rest. You don't just close your eyes, you step into alignment. You don't just end your day, you prepare your destiny. Releasing every burden before rest is one of the most compassionate things you can do for your own soul. Because the truth is, your mind was never designed to carry the weight of an entire day into the night. Every worry you hold on to, every unresolved thought, every quiet fear, and every emotional bruise tries to travel with you into your sleep, fighting for space in your spirit. And if you don't release it, it settles deeper and deeper, shaping your mood, your dreams, your energy, and the way you rise in the morning. But when you make the deliberate choice to let go, truly let go, you create room for God to step in and do what only He can do. Releasing burdens is not denial. It's not pretending that everything is perfect. It's acknowledging that some things are simply too heavy for you to carry alone. It's saying, God, I trust you more than I trust my fear. I trust your ability more than I trust my own understanding. I trust your strength more than I trust my anxiety. Releasing burdens is an act of courage because it requires you to unclench your fists, open your hands, and surrender what you've been trying to control. Before you rest, you have to understand that your bed is not a battlefield. It is a sanctuary, but it can only become a sanctuary if you stop dragging today's warfare into it. The arguments, the disappointments, the delays, the mistakes, they cannot follow you into the place where God intends to restore you. You cannot heal while holding on to the very things that wound you. You cannot rest when your mind is busy rewriting the pain of the day. You cannot enter peace while rehearsing what went wrong. There is something powerful about saying, God, I release it. I release the conversations that hurt me. I release the thoughts that tormented me. I release the pressure that overwhelmed me. I release the expectations that exhausted me. I release the people I couldn't please. I release the situations I couldn't fix. When you say this, you free your spirit from the clutter that tries to suffocate your peace. And when you release, something supernatural happens. Your breathing changes, your thoughts soften, your chest loosens, the weight lifts. Your mind becomes still enough to hear God whisper to you. Your soul becomes open enough to be strengthened. Your emotions settle into calmness. Releasing burdens is not just spiritual, it is emotional detoxing. It is clearing room for renewal. It is stripping away heaviness so that rest can actually feel like rest. Some of the battles you face during the day linger because you never truly put them down, but tonight you choose differently. Tonight, you release every fear that tried to lodge itself in your heart. You release every setback that tried to define your worth. You release every moment where you felt unseen, unheard, or unappreciated. You release the things you gave too much thought to. You release the things that took too much from you. Releasing your burdens before rest is an act of self-preservation, but more importantly, it is an act of spiritual alignment. It tells God, I trust you enough to sleep. I trust you enough to stop striving. I trust you enough to let you handle what I cannot. And in that release, heaven moves. In that surrender, peace flows. In that letting go, God prepares you for a morning where you rise lighter, stronger, and more aligned with your divine purpose. Realigning your words with God's will is one of the greatest acts of spiritual authority you can exercise before you sleep. Your words are not casual, they are creative. They don't float away into silence. They take shape in the spiritual realm and begin building the very atmosphere you will wake up in. Many people end their nights speaking frustration, defeat, worry, and disappointment without realizing they are planting seeds for tomorrow's harvest. But when you intentionally align your words with what God has spoken, when you choose to declare life, power, peace, and victory, you shift the entire trajectory of your night and everything that awaits you when you rise. Your mouth is a steering wheel for your future. What you say becomes a compass for your spirit when you lie down at night and declare, God is with me, God is protecting me, God is guiding me, God is strengthening me. You are not just reciting phrases, you are commanding your atmosphere to come into agreement with heaven. You are placing your mind under divine alignment and telling every fear, every doubt, and every anxious thought, you no longer have authority here. There is a spiritual principle that is often overlooked. Darkness responds to your voice. Fear cannot linger where faith is spoken. Anxiety cannot dominate where God's promises are declared. Chaos cannot continue where truth is proclaimed. When you speak God's words over your night, you are not only calming your mind, you are driving out every spirit that tries to disrupt your rest. You are reinforcing the boundaries of peace that God has already assigned to you. Realigning your words also means refusing to give language to things that do not belong to your destiny. You silence the I can't, I'm tired of this, nothing will ever change, and I'm overwhelmed, because those words create agreements with defeat. Instead, you speak what God speaks. You declare what God has promised. You echo what heaven has already established. And the moment your words come into alignment with God's will, your night becomes charged with divine power. Before you sleep, your declarations should prepare your soul for restoration. They should shape your mindset for the next day. They should lift your spirit into a place where faith becomes louder than fear. When you say, I am protected, you are creating a shield around your rest. When you say, I am healed, you are giving your body permission to recover. When you say, I am at peace, you are commanding your thoughts to settle. When you say, God is fighting for me, you are inviting heaven's armies to surround you. There is something transformational about speaking with authority before you sleep. It reminds you that you are not at the mercy of your emotions. It reminds you that you are not a victim of your circumstances. It reminds you that even in the stillness of the night, you carry power, power to bind, power to loose, power to establish, and power to declare victory. Your words become a spiritual covering, wrapping your rest in faith and shielding your spirit from anything that tries to intrude. Every word you speak becomes a seed planted into the soil of your night, and God, the master gardener, begins to nurture those seeds while you sleep. Realigning your words with His will means you go to bed knowing heaven is working with what you've declared. It means you rest in confidence instead of fear, expectation instead of doubt, faith instead of frustration. When your words align with God's intentions, your entire night becomes a battleground already won, a space already secured, and a doorway to a new day already blessed. Inviting God to fight your battles while you sleep is one of the greatest demonstrations of trust you can show Him, because it acknowledges a profound truth: you are limited, but He is limitless. There are things you can handle in the daylight. Decisions, conversations, responsibilities, tasks, but there are battles that can only be fought in the realm you cannot see. And while your body rests, heaven moves with a precision and strength that far surpasses anything you could ever accomplish on your own. There is a moment just before sleep where you must decide whether you will hold onto the day or hand it over. When you choose to release it to God, you activate a divine exchange. Your exhaustion becomes His strength. Your confusion becomes His clarity. Your fears become His victory. Your questions become His answers. And your battles, seen and unseen, become His territory to conquer. When you invite God to fight for you at night, you are reminding yourself that you were never designed to wage spiritual warfare 24/7. Rest is a weapon. Peace is a shield. Stillness is a strategy. The enemy would prefer you stay awake, worried, overthinking, replaying scenarios, and analyzing outcomes, because a tired mind is easier to attack. But when you choose to rest in God's presence, you are stepping out of the battleground and letting the one who never sleeps take over. There are angels assigned to your life, assigned to your home, your destiny, your purpose. They don't clock out when you close your eyes. They don't get tired. They don't question the mission. They stand guard. They war on your behalf, and they enforce God's promises concerning you. But they respond to one thing above all: your faith. When you say, God, I trust you to fight for me tonight, heaven mobilizes. Things begin to shift in dimensions you cannot see with your natural eyes. Some of your greatest deliverances won't happen while you're awake. They will happen while you sleep. Because that is when your spirit is open, your mind is quiet, and your heart is surrendered. God does some of His best work in the minutes when you release control. He untangles the knots in your thoughts. He heals the wounds you didn't talk about. He fortifies the parts of you that felt weak. He rearranges circumstances that seemed impossible. He blocks attacks that were never meant to reach you. And He sets the stage for breakthroughs you didn't even know you needed. When you invite God into your night, you create a barrier that darkness cannot cross. You tell every spiritual force that tries to linger, you have no authority here. You declare that your room, your atmosphere, and every corner of your home belongs to God. And in that declaration, The battles that once seemed overwhelming now fall under divine jurisdiction. Imagine going to sleep knowing God is not just watching over you, He's working for you. He's fighting in places you cannot reach. He's dealing with issues that were too heavy for your heart. He's intercepting what was meant to harm you. He's aligning what you need for the future. You sleep, but heaven does not. You rest, but God does not. You close your eyes, but his eyes are always open, always aware, always defending, always strengthening. Inviting God to fight your battles while you sleep is the ultimate act of confidence that says, I don't have to stay awake to win. I don't have to understand everything to overcome. I don't have to carry this into tomorrow. You've got, you've got it. And I trust you with it. In that posture of faith, victory begins long before morning comes. Declaring a night prayer that activates protection, peace, and breakthrough is more than a spiritual routine. It is a divine activation, a moment where heaven leans in and responds to the sound of your faith. Prayer before sleep is not just words whispered into the darkness. It is a decree, a spiritual announcement that you are aligning your night with God's promises and placing every part of your life under his covering. When you speak this kind of prayer, you are not hoping for protection. You are invoking it. You are not wishing for peace. You are commanding it. You are not asking for breakthrough. You are declaring that breakthrough is already in motion. There is a sacred stillness that settles over the room when you pray with authority at night. The atmosphere shifts, the heaviness lifts, the tension dissolves. Suddenly, what felt chaotic becomes calm, what felt confusing becomes clear, and what felt overwhelming loses its grip. This happens because prayer invites God to occupy the space around you and within you. It pushes back the spiritual noise and makes room for divine order. Night prayer establishes a boundary line that darkness cannot cross and anxiety cannot penetrate. It reminds every spirit, every thought, every energy that does not belong, this territory is protected. The prayer you speak before you sleep becomes a cloak around your mind, a shield around your spirit, and a fortress around your home. You are setting guards in place, calling forth angels to stand watch, and placing a divine seal over your rest. When you say, God, cover me, heaven responds. When you say, God, surround me, angels take their positions. When you say, God, restore me, the Holy Spirit begins moving through the chambers of your heart, healing, repairing, and renewing things you didn't even know needed attention. This kind of prayer also releases pressure from your soul. It takes the weight of your day and offers it to the one who knows exactly what to do with it. You may not have the strength to figure everything out, but when you pray, you are connecting to the one who does. You are acknowledging that you don't have to be in control to be secure. You don't have to have all the answers to rest in peace. You don't have to solve every problem tonight. Some things belong in God's hands, not yours. And breakthrough often begins right here, in the quiet moments when you dare to speak faith, even though circumstances haven't changed yet. When you pray at night, you're sowing seeds into the soil of tomorrow. You are declaring healing before the symptoms leave. You are declaring victory before the battle ends. You are declaring provision before the resources appear. You are speaking joy even when your emotions are tired. Prayer is the bridge that pulls tomorrow's blessings into today's atmosphere. There is a reason the enemy fights people hardest at night. He knows the power of a mind left unguarded. He knows the influence of an anxious heart. He knows how vulnerable you can feel when the world is quiet and your thoughts get louder. But when you declare a powerful prayer over your night, you shut down every door the enemy tries to slip through. You silence every whisper of fear. You break the cycle of overthinking. You cancel every assignment sent to disturb your rest. Prayer becomes your defense and your declaration, your covering and your confidence. And as you speak, something shifts inside you as well. Your spirit becomes anchored, your breathing deepens, your heart steadies. Your thoughts come into alignment. You feel a certainty rising, a knowing that God has already stepped into your night, already ordered your steps, already placed victory in your path. This kind of prayer not only protects your night, it prepares your morning. It welcomes peace that doesn't fade. It invites breakthrough that doesn't delay. It establishes protection that doesn't fail. When you declare this kind of night prayer, you are not just ending your day, you are opening the door to divine visitation, divine intervention, and divine alignment. It is the moment where heaven meets earth in the quiet of your room, and God begins to do what only He can do while you sleep. There is something profoundly healing about allowing God to meet you in the secret places of your heart before you sleep, because nighttime has a way of exposing everything you tried to ignore during the day. The silence amplifies the thoughts you pushed aside. The stillness brings to the surface emotions you were too busy to feel, and the darkness makes your fears look bigger than they are. This is why nighttime can either become a place of torment or a place of transformation, depending on what you choose to invite into it. When you choose to bring God into that space, you are choosing healing over heaviness, clarity over confusion, comfort over chaos. Some of the deepest wounds people carry aren't physical, they're emotional and spiritual. They're the thoughts that tangle themselves around the heart. They're the memories that replay when your mind slows down. They're the disappointments that whisper when the world goes quiet. And if you don't bring those wounds to God, they follow you into the night, slipping into your dreams, your mood, your sleep, and your spirit. But when you say, God, come into this place with me, you create an opening for Him to step into the places you didn't want to touch and the feelings you didn't know how to process. Nighttime is sacred because it is the moment when masks fall off. You don't have to impress anyone. You don't have to pretend to be strong. You don't have to hide the vulnerability you carried throughout the day. You can simply be honest with your Creator. You can say, God, this hurt me, or God, I don't understand this, or God, I'm tired. And He meets you in that honesty, not with judgment, but with compassion. Before you sleep, when you allow God into your weakness, He gives you access to His strength. When you reveal your pain, He releases His healing. When you expose your fears, He surrounds you with His peace. God does some of His greatest work in the moments when you are finally still enough to let Him. While you're busy, distracted, rushing, or trying to push through the day, it can be hard to hear Him. But at night, when everything slows down, your spirit becomes tender, receptive, and more attuned to His presence. You begin to notice His whispers, the gentle nudges, the quiet comfort, the subtle reassurances. You begin to sense His peace settling over you like a warm blanket. And in that space, healing begins. His presence soothes the soreness of your soul. His love untangles the knots in your emotions. His voice calms the storms you kept inside. Before you sleep, when you intentionally place yourself in God's presence, you create an environment where restoration becomes possible. Your mind begins to unwind. Your body begins to relax. Your heart begins to breathe again. Suddenly, the worries lose their grip. The pressure loosens. The fear fades. It's not because the problems disappear. It's because God becomes larger than the problems. His presence shifts your perspective. Instead of focusing on what you can't control, you remember the one who controls everything. When you take a moment before bed to say, God, enter this space with me, you're inviting Him into the cracks and crevices of your heart, the unspoken hurts, the hidden frustrations, the quiet fears you didn't mention to anyone. You're giving Him access to the deepest parts of you, the parts you don't show the world. And God never enters lightly. When He steps in, He brings healing with Him. He brings comfort. He brings revelation. He brings strength. Some nights, God will meet you with peace. Other nights, He will meet you with instruction. Sometimes He will give you rest, and other times He will give you clarity. but he always meets you with something. He never leaves you empty. He never leaves you the same. When you invite him into your nighttime moments, you are allowing him to prepare your heart for the next day, to cleanse you from the weight of the one before, and to strengthen you for whatever lies ahead. In those sacred nighttime exchanges, God rewrites what fear tried to imprint, restores what stress tried to steal, and resets what the day tried to break. There is a divine mystery in the way God realigns your spirit during the night, a quiet repositioning that happens when everything else goes silent. The night is not just a time to rest. It is a sacred corridor where God prepares you for your next assignment. When the world sleeps, heaven works. When people disconnect, God draws near. When your mind stops racing, your spirit becomes available in ways it wasn't during the day. And it is during this sacred transition from consciousness to rest that God begins to reset the parts of you that have been stretched, drained, or overwhelmed. Throughout the day, you absorb so much conversations, emotions, disappointments, demands, expectations, and energy from all directions. You give, you respond, you adjust, you show up, you handle things, you push through. Even when you feel strong, your soul carries subtle weights you don't always recognize. By nighttime, you may be tired in ways that are hard to articulate, not just physically, but mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. This is why God uses the night as a divine recalibration, a moment where he gently gathers the scattered pieces of your spirit and brings them back into alignment. During the night, God begins to untangle the knots that stress created. He begins to quiet the internal noise that made it hard to hear him. He restores the pieces of you that felt stretched thin. He strengthens the parts of you that were weakened by the day's battles. He brings clarity to situations that felt confusing. He brings peace to places that felt chaotic. This realignment doesn't always come with words or visions. It often comes through a supernatural calming, a shift in atmosphere, a sense of release that washes over you without explanation. When you allow God to realign your spirit before you sleep, you wake up different. You wake up steadier, clearer, lighter. You wake up with a renewed sense of direction. You wake up with a peace that doesn't match your circumstances. You wake up knowing that something shifted in the night. Even if you can't fully describe it, that is the evidence of God working on the inside, quietly, gently, powerfully. Sometimes the greatest transformations don't happen in moments of high energy or loud prayer. They happen in the stillness of the night. While you sleep, your spirit remains awake, open, and connected to God. It is in that space that he imparts wisdom, builds resilience, strengthens your foundation, and whispers truths into your soul. You may not hear words, but you feel the shift. You may not see visions, but you sense the alignment. God has a way of visiting your spirit while your body rests, tending to your heart like a skilled healer tending to a wound. There are nights when you go to bed heavy, but God lightens you. Nights when you feel lost, but God redirects you. Nights when you feel tired, but God replenishes you. Nights when you pray for strength and God infuses you with it, not in a dramatic moment, but in the quiet hours of sleep. This is why surrendering your spirit before rest is so powerful. It gives God room to work at depths you cannot reach on your own. In that sacred nightly realignment, God removes what doesn't belong, fear that clung to you, thoughts that drained you, emotions that burdened you, lies you unknowingly agreed with. He uproots bitterness, anxiety, confusion, and discouragement, and he replaces them with peace, confidence, clarity, and strength. He shifts your internal posture so that when morning comes, you rise with a sense of purpose instead of pressure. When you allow God to realign your spirit at night, you give him permission to prepare you for what is ahead. You allow him to pour into you for the assignments you haven't seen yet. You allow him to refill what life drained out of you. You allow him to restore what battles tried to steal. God knows that the version of you that wakes up tomorrow must be equipped, centered, and spiritually fortified, and he uses the night to make that happen in ways only he can. Sometimes a woman stays single because she has learned the hard way that peace is priceless. She values a calm heart more than forced companionship, and she refuses to entertain situations that drain her emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. She has reached a point where she no longer feels pressured to settle just to meet society's expectations. Instead, she prioritizes emotional clarity, healing, and inner balance. She would rather wait for something real than rush into something that breaks her spirit. She may have experienced relationships that taught her what emotional safety really means, and now she guards herself with a wiser, more discerning heart. She doesn't fall for sweet words or temporary affection. She pays attention to patterns, consistency, and genuine connection. Because of this, she avoids anyone who brings chaos, confusion, or instability into her life. Being single gives her the freedom to protect her energy without guilt, allowing her to grow, rest, and focus on becoming the best version of herself. She thrives in her solitude because she knows how to enjoy her own company. Her life is full of purpose, goals, friendships, and personal fulfillment. So she doesn't feel incomplete without a partner. She is open to love, but not at the cost of her peace. Anyone who enters her life must add value and align with her growth, not disrupt it. Remaining single becomes a conscious decision, not a consequence, because she understands that real love can only flourish where there is stability, respect, and emotional peace. Sometimes a woman stays single because she is rebuilding herself from the inside out. She has gone through experiences that forced her to grow, reflect, and transform, and now she refuses to enter a relationship until she feels whole again. She is not avoiding love. She is simply prioritizing her healing. She knows that carrying old wounds into something new will only create more pain, so she chooses to take her time and move at her own pace. This period of singleness becomes a sacred space where she regains her confidence, strength, and emotional balance. She may be working on habits, releasing past trauma, and redefining what love means to her. She is learning to trust herself again, to listen to her intuition, and to honor her boundaries. Through this process, she grows wiser about what she will and will not accept. She understands that healing is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of maturity, and she refuses to pretend she is okay just to avoid being alone. She knows that the right person will meet her healed, not broken. In this season, she gives herself permission to rest, reflect, and rebuild her identity without judgment or pressure. She finds comfort in personal growth, spiritual grounding, and emotional clarity. Being single allows her to reconnect with her dreams, passions, and purpose without the noise of unhealthy relationships. She is preparing herself for a healthier, more stable love, one that aligns with who she is becoming, not who she used to be.